Running back gems you need to know for your fantasy football drafts. Now, these are players that I love. I can't stop drafting. Whether or not you want to draft them is totally up to you. I'm going to give you my reasoning behind them, why I'd like to draft them, and where I'd like to draft them. So let's get to it. The first guy we're going to talk about is Chase Brown. Now, this is going to be a common theme here for this video, is ambiguous backfields. Backfields that we're not quite sure, even in fantasy football, who really the lead guy is, because these guys are going later in drafts. What we have with Chase Brown is his competition is Zach Moss. Now, Zach Moss was solid last year for the games that he was playing in. But Zach Moss is a career backup running back that is now being thrusted into the lead role, really what we think is going to be the lead role. This sounds a lot like Mike Davis. Alexander Madison.
Brother,
Who, his best comparable player is Alexander Madison. In terms of NFL standards, can't stress this enough, in terms of NFL standards, not very athletic. Is he more athletic than me? 100%. But in terms of NFL standards, not very athletic for the running back position. Career backup running back. I look at a guy like Chase Brown, has an explosive, athletic profile for a running back. Coming out of college where he was productive. He had good productive seasons. And last year, also very good underlying efficiency metrics. It was limited sample size. I think he only had like 55 total touches. But in terms of like underlying efficiency metrics, he was number 4 in explosive play percentage. And I want to say he was top 10. Possibly, let's look real quick. Number 8 in terms of missed tackles forced per attempt last year at the running back position. So good underlying efficiency metrics, good athletic profile. I just think that there's a realistic chance that Chase Brown could at least be this team's receiving back and potentially could just be the best back in this backfield on an offense that should be one of the best in the NFL this season, as long as Joe Burrow and company can stay healthy. But this should be one of the best offenses. I'd rather take a chance on Chase Brown, who's currently going in round 10 of drafts right now. The next guy on this list is going to be running back Kamani Vidal. He's a rookie out of Troy. Once again, very good athletic profile. He had a very, very good size. BMI's 91st percentile. So he has the size, he has the athleticism, and he had good college production his last season in college, where he put up over 1,300 rushing yards, a very good receiver out of the backfield. I don't want to say very good, but a good receiver out of the backfield, and had a .34 missed tackles forced per attempt, which is right there on par with Jonathan Brooks last season coming out of college. So we have all of that. Now we're heading to a situation for the Los Angeles Chargers where I think this offense is going to be better than some people think. And there's really no number one guy. People want to say it's Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards is 29 years old. His highest reception total throughout his entire career was last year when he had 13. I think at the very worst, Kamani Vidal walks in here. I think that he could realistically be this team's pass catching back, just like Chase Brown. And there's a chance that really there's no proven guys here. I know, Gus Edwards wasn't bad, hasn't had bad seasons, but what if Kamani Vidal, the rookie running back who's 22 years old, is able to come in here and just give him juice that none of the other guys can, like J.K. Dobbins coming off the Achilles tear, older Gus Edwards. What if he's just able to give him a juice that nobody else has, right?
Hey, yo, what the?
Pause. That sounds a little bit weird, the juice. But anyways, you know what I'm saying. So we have Kamani Vidal, who I just think that there's a realistic chance he could be this team's lead back in this offense, on an offense that's probably going to run the ball at a pretty high rate. They're going to be maybe a run first team, even though I don't even truly believe that. I think Justin Herbert's still going to throw the ball quite a bit. But regardless, we just have an offense that has potential to be a pretty decent offense this year. I'd want a piece of it, and Kamani Vidal is currently going in like rounds 13, sometimes 14 rounds of your drafts, especially in home leagues where not a whole lot of people know him. He's a guy that I would 100% be targeting in those later rounds. The next guy on this list is going to be Jaylen Warren. Now, I don't think he's going to overtake Najee Harris and be the lead back in this offense, but last year, this was basically a 50-50 split. And what's important here is that Jaylen Warren last season was this team's receiving back. He had 74 targets, which was top 5 at the running back position, 61 receptions, which was also top 5 at the running back position. Now we have quarterback Russell Wilson here.
Broncos country, let's ride.
And Russell Wilson last season led the league, was the highest rated quarterback, and not highest rated, but
Today, Junior.
check the ball down at the highest rate amongst all starting quarterbacks last season. What do we think is going to happen this year? I think it's probably going to be deep target to George Pickens, or probably a check down to most likely Jaylen Warren. We have an offense coordinator here, Arthur Smith, that made Derrick Henry, really. Cordell Patterson was fantasy relevant, was a top 10 running back in fantasy football when Arthur Smith was in Atlanta. I know Bijan Robinson was really disappointing last season, but he was still finished as a top 12 running back in fantasy football. I do think that there's a lot of potential here with Jaylen Warren, even Najee Harris, because this offense I think will just be better in general as well. But Jaylen Warren will be this team's pass catching back, playing with a quarterback who checks the ball down at a very high rate and goes usually in the 8th round of drafts. I think he's a very good target as like your running back 3, or if you're going with more like a 0RB build, I think he's a guy that I would definitely target. The next guy on this list is going to be Taj Spears. And what we have with this backfield is Taj Spears is currently going in like round 9, and we have Tony Pollard, who is currently going in round 7. So with Tony Pollard last year, very disappointing, especially for where he was drafted, but he honestly was really not that good just in general. A lot of volume. The efficiency was dreadful last season, 13.1 fantasy points per game, even though he saw a mass amount of touches, over 300 total touches. I don't want to say massive, but a lot of touches last season, over 300. He was second in red zone touches, yet he was 24th in total touchdowns because he just couldn't score on one of the league's best offenses. So what if we have here who Taj Spears was top 10 in both targets and receptions at the running back position. This offense going to throw the ball at a higher rate. At least that's what they've kind of really done this offseason to show us that they're going to throw the ball at a higher rate, some of the moves that they made. So what if we have here where Taj Spears is this team's pass catching back? And then we also have Tony Pollard, who struggled mightily in the red zone last year, struggle once again, and Taj Spears starts to take over that role a little bit here. Like the biggest problem in this backfield, though, is like these two guys are very similar in terms of their archetypes. So it's really hard to kind of figure out how exactly they're both going to be used. Is it just going to be a 50-50 split here? I don't know, but I think that at this point in their careers, Taj Spears is the better overall running back. So I'd rather take a shot on him, and especially because he's going the latest at both of these guys, typically 2 rounds after Tony Pollard. So I'd rather just take the chance on the younger guy, who, in my opinion, has more upside. But the number one player is going to be Jonathan Brooks. Now, there's 3 things that people are concerned about with Jonathan Brooks. The first one, the most important one, is him coming off the ACL. As long as he's ready for the start of the season, we won't truly know until training camp, then I really like Jonathan Brooks. But if it comes out that he has to get his knee scoped or something like that, then I'm out. I would want nothing to do with Jonathan Brooks this season. But as long as he's good to go, we saw Breece Hall last year finish as RB2 overall in fantasy football in terms of total points in PPR leagues. Now, not everybody's going to be Breece Hall, right? But I think that Jonathan Brooks can recover. We see the younger running backs, younger players recover coming off these ACL tears faster than your older players. Number 2, people don't believe he's going to be the workhorse. I firmly believe he's going to be the workhorse in this backfield once he's ready. Whether or not that's going to be early on the season, halfway through the season, I don't know. But down the stretch, I think that he's going to be a player that will win fantasy football leagues. And the last thing is, how good is this offense actually going to be? They were really bad last season. Well, what I will say to that is, I don't think that they're going to be good. I think that they could potentially be closer to the middle of the pack. We have Dave Canales here, who was the offense coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. And even on an offense that they weren't bad. They weren't very good either, but they produced 2 players in Mike Evans, who is a top 10 wide receiver, and Rachaad White, who is a top 5 running back in fantasy football. Rachaad White is not a very good real-life NFL player, and I think Jonathan Brooks can be better than Rachaad White. So if we see halfway through the season, Jonathan Brooks, even on an offense that doesn't project to be very good, he's a bell cow in this offense. I think that he can be very fantasy-friendly, very good in fantasy in the second half of the season and win people their leagues once again. So that's my take. Let me know in the comments who are some players that you like to be targeting this year in fantasy football. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you all. See you all next time. Peace.